I am in the kitchen this morning with our chemist, Jesse Miller. Thanks so much for joining us.
Oh, it's a joy.
This makes me nervous.
Well, it should make you nervous.
This looks very intense.
It is in a way, but you know, it's safe.
Okay.
As safe as anything that I do around here.
A little nervous chuckle that you just let out there.
This is an apparatus I use to show electrolysis of water.
Okay.
And electrolysis in this case is using electricity in order to separate water into its constituent elements, hydrogen and oxygen. As we know, water is H2O, which means it has 2 atoms of hydrogen for every atom of oxygen. So, like, if we want, right now, with all the gas prices being high, and we're looking for alternative fuels and things like that. And one of the things they've been playing around with is hydrogen fuel cells. And in the next hour, I'm actually going to show you a hydrogen fuel cell.
Okay.
But so let's say everything is all great, and we develop this technology that's going to be useful. How are we going to get all the hydrogen? Right now, we don't produce enough hydrogen in the United States in order to meet the energy needs that we would need.
Right.
So we'd have to. And one way that we would get hydrogen, or could get hydrogen, is through electrolysis.
Okay.
And so what we're doing here is we're shooting electricity in. There's these are platinum electrodes in here, and we're causing electrons to go. So you got 2 hydrogens under an oxygen.
Right. The
oxygens, if you give them enough electrons, will form O2, and if you strip the the opposite, sorry, and you give the hydrogens enough electrons, they'll form H2, and so the electrons are flowing from the oxygen to the hydrogen.
Okay.
And you can see that here. These are different colors because I have indicators in it. Okay, and the purple is a base. And I know that this is hydrogen for 2 reasons. One, it's a base. So as we strip hydrogen off the water, we're left with OH minus, which is a base.
Okay.
Okay. So, and then on the other side, it's acidic. The other way I can tell is because there's 2 hydrogens for every oxygen, you should get twice as much hydrogen as you do oxygen. And I've had this running for about a half an hour. And you can see, if you go up here to the top here, you can see that there is about twice as much hydrogen being produced as there is oxygen.
Okay.
So we know this hydrogen. If I had enough, I could vent this off and show you that it actually lights, but it takes a while for this to get enough hydrogen going on. So basically, once we get the hydrogen, we can do whatever we want with the oxygen. Once we get the hydrogen, then we can use it usefully in a fuel cell or whatever. You also need oxygen for the fuel cell, but usually you just use what's in the air.
Okay.
You don't need to compress it or whatever. And this is actually, as I was saying to you before, this is actually how we make oxygen on a submarine. I used to be on a submarine. And this is how we would make our oxygen to breathe.
It's just separated in the
We just separate into hydrogen and oxygen, pump the hydrogen overboard, and we compress the oxygen and bleed it off and breathe it later.
So obviously, if we were to do this for any sort of alternative fuel, we'd have to do it on a much larger scale.
That's right. Right now, if you took the entire world's production of hydrogen, because hydrogen is too light to stay on the Earth. Okay, if you just made a gas, it won't stay. It'll go out. It'll go away. Okay, so but the entire production of hydrogen on the Earth right now it's about the equivalent of 1 day's worth of gasoline that we consume in the United States. Okay, so we're going to have to step up this hydrogen, and there may be ways to do this, alternative ways to do this. Maybe that would be a good way for wind power or solar power to actually run these generators, because you're going to have to get the energy from something. If you use a coal-powered plant, hey, you're right back to square one.
Right.
Nuclear is a good option, but right now we're not really set up in the United States to do that in the large scale. So maybe these alternative energies that aren't so reliable and so consistent all the time, like wind has its problems, solar has its problems, but if you could use that, store it, or use it to make hydrogen, then you could power the hydrogen fuel cell. And the great thing about hydrogen fuel cells is, of course, when you recombine them, you make water.
So it's nothing.
Right. That's right.
Interesting. All right, Jesse, be back in the 7 o'clock hour with a little bit more from you.
That's right.
All right, we're going to be right back.